really should be an absolute humdinger on October the 21st. There's a huge all-British light heavyweight clash as Joshua Buatsi goes head-to-head with Dan Azeez at the O2. And I'm delighted to say we're joined in the studio now by Josh, the CEO of Boxer Ben Shalom, and a massive entourage as well. How are you, lads? I'll start with you, Josh. How are you? Are you well? Are you good?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Not too bad. Yourself?
I'm good. I'm very well. I mean, I looked a bit better about 30 seconds ago before you took your jacket back.
Why don't you keep it?
Huh?
Why don't you just keep it on?
If he wants to fight after this one. How are you feeling? This is such a great fight. Now, usually we get boxers in and sometimes we go, oh, it should be a good fight. And you sort of think, is that a bit tongue-in-cheek? But you two, unbeaten. Yep. And you're ranked 1 and 2 as well by the governing body. This has all the makings of just an absolute barnstorm, doesn't it?
For sure. And it's at the O2 Arena as well. Dan's a very good fighter. What you see is what you get. A lot of pressure. He fights with passion. He hasn't been in a boring fight, so you know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen. And I think it's a fight that the fans, and big up to Ben as well for making this fight happen as well. But it's a fight where the fans are going to be winners as well.
Are you two good friends?
Very good friends, yeah.
So does that make it more difficult then to step in the ring with a good friend of yours?
Not really, because we spar for free all the time, and in sparring is hard work. So knowing that we're going to get paid for it, and as a result of it, the winner's going to get a crack at gold, we can put it aside for 12 rounds, definitely.
Is it, Ben, good to see you as well. I won't try your jacket on. Let me ask, when you're a promoter and you've got, two fantastic fighters, there's always, I'm guessing from your perspective, a sort of risk or worry of putting two, great prospects together, because effectively one, of course, is going to lose. Is that a problem for you or not?
No, I think, look, the biggest thing is trying to manage both of them. I think Joshua Buatsi he thinks I'm best friends with Dan Azeez, and just getting the fight on.
Why does he think that? Why?
Look, we've promoted Dan Azeez for a long time. I think it's one of those fights where even if I didn't work in boxing, this was a fight I would like to see. There's so much stuff in boxing at the moment where you see fights and are the fans really interested? Who's ducking who? You see what's going on in the heavyweight division. And in Britain, we need fights like this. And when you've got number 1 against number 2, when you've got two guys in the prime of their career, putting it on the line, both from London, 10 miles from each other, for the southern area, for these two athletes to now be in their prime and headlining the O2 on Sky Sports, you have to give credit to the fighters because they're both taking a lot of risk with this fight. As
you said there, Ben, is it frustrating for you when you look at what is going on in the heavyweight division and then you look at obviously Dan Azeez versus Joshua Buatsi? A lot of people want to see that. You obviously did as well. Savannah Marshall, Clarissa Shields, two people at the top of their game. Is that the kind of fights that you want to be putting on, where you want to be seeing on a regular basis?
It's all fans want to see. It's all I want to see. Sometimes politics gets in the way, money gets in the way. That's what's so tricky about the sport at the moment. I think you can only hope that the fighters see what Joshua Buatsi and Dan Azeez are doing and how much the fans sort of love what they're doing, and that's what the sport needs. And all you can hope for is we have an unbelievable night on October 21st. May the best man win. But as I say, this is setting an example to every other weight division, because the sport won't survive unless the best fight the best, and the sport won't survive especially when the best don't fight the best in their prime as well.
Is that a little dig at Tyson Fury's next fight?
It's definitely not a little dig. I think it's a dig at the industry. Everyone involved in it feels it, and it hurts us when the big fights don't happen. When Usyk against Tyson Fury doesn't happen, it hurts the whole sport, and it makes it look like a mockery when you're looking at other sports. Whenever do you have a sport where you don't have the best facing the best? That's what sport is. And boxing's become so much of a business that it's forgotten how to actually be a sport.
Josh, going back to you, because it's all about you, all right? This is your entourage, not Ben's. Let's remind ourselves of that. We talked earlier on that you and Dan are good pals and you've sparred many a time. You must get some kind of feeling, both of you actually, who realistically is the favourite for the fight. How much is left in the ring when you're sparring?
You go all out in the ring, but when you're sparring, but the thing is, every session is different. He might be working on something today and maybe might seem like he's losing, but for him, he wanted to achieve something, and I might be doing the same. But when the gloves are smaller, the lights are bright, there's a massive crowd, and there's a lot at stake, it's different from sparring. That's what I'm saying. It's very, very different from sparring. So
it reminds me a little bit of Chris Smith against Lawrence Okoye. They'd sparred so many rounds, but nothing could prepare them for a fight on the night, and this it's got that at stake as well.
What are you expecting from Dan Azeez? And I mean, what are his strengths? You said you've sparred with him many a time. You've seen him, you've watched him fight. He's undefeated as well. What are his biggest strengths?
A strength I would say is as we've seen, Dan fights with passion. You could tell a pressure fighter comes forward, passionate about the sport, and he seems to translate that in the ring. Of course, you might say, well, that's against the people he's fighting that are allowing him to do it, but that's what we can say from seeing him in the last 20 fights that he's had. But again, October the 21st, I'm not going in there too entertained. I'm going to do what I have to do to make sure that I win.
And when you win,
Yep,
okay.
thank you.
By the way, I'd say the same to Dan if he was here. I'm being honest.
Yep.
But when you win,
Yep.
what happens next? Where do you go after that?
Let's ask Ben what happens next, because I can say all of these things, but let's ask
It's a
Ben.
very good question.
Let's ask Ben.
Ben Shalom.
There's two obvious fights. There's Dimitri Bivol for the world title, and
big
there's
fight.
Anthony Yarde, who will be very, very interested in what happens on October the 21st. I think that's why there's so much on the line for both of them. This is the pinnacle of the light heavyweight division. The winner goes on to some absolute monster fights. The loser, of course, comes again. But I'd say Anthony Yarde or Dimitri Bivol is next for the winner.
I've always wondered this. You, Ben, obviously you promote both guys. How do you feel before the fight as well? Because as you said there, you're close to both of the fighters.
But he hasn't got a favourite though.
No, of course he hasn't got a favourite.
Hasn't
But
got a favourite.
he's of course you're like obviously a father to
Ben.
both of them. Do you know what I mean? You look after both of them. What are your emotions like going into that fight, and certainly after the fight, where one of your fighters has taken the loss?
Look, honestly,
Hold on.
honestly,
Whose dressing room were you going first?
Thank
After
you.
the fight?
Yeah,
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I'm not going in any dressing room. I might not even go to this show. No, in all seriousness, it is difficult, and you want both fighters to be comfortable. Ultimately, all you can hope for is a fair fight. Is both fighters to come in at their absolute best, and may the best man win. I think in a fight like this, it's going to be so brutal that really the styles just gel so well. You want them to come out both safe, and there'll be plenty of opportunities for both of them after the fight.
Who do you want to win? I'm only joking. While I've got you in the studio, I want to get your views. I know I spoke to you ever so briefly, Ben, outside. I know you said you didn't watch the Joshua fight the weekend. Did you see it?
I seen it. Yeah.
What did you make? Firstly, of his performance, and secondly, of his chat afterwards in the ring.
I didn't hear the chat, but I think the performance was good because he got the icing on the cake, which was the knockout. From a boxer myself, watching it, it was a set-up punch that got the knockout. What I didn't like was the booings from the crowd. People were booing during the rounds, and I thought, why would you? Let's put ourselves in his shoes for a second.
But you
It's
know
a hard
why.
sport.
You know why,
Yeah,
right?
No.
in terms of why,
Ben
because
say no.
people want to see the knockout and everything, but it came. It took long to do because he had to set it up. The guy boxed a week ago who he fought, so he's sharp. He's got no ring rust or nothing. So I think credit to him, man. He got the knockout, which is what people ultimately wanted to see.
Yeah, I agree with Josh. I think Anthony Joshua has all the money in the world. He doesn't need to continue boxing and putting himself through that. Yes, maybe people will say he's on the decline, but anyone that steps into that ring to boo them, I think, is disgraceful, to be
Do
honest.
you? You don't
Yeah.
think, and I'm playing devil's advocate, you don't think that the crowd, the paying public, have every right to air their frustration or not?
I think you can air your frustration and say, oh, he should be doing this better or he should be doing that better. But ultimately, this is a guy that doesn't need to do it. The fact that he's boxing is amazing for British boxing. He doesn't have to keep boxing. He's been through a lot of trials and tribulations and difficult moments in his career. The fact that a guy like that wants to still get in the ring, wants to still test himself, wants to still battle, and yes, fighting a guy at last minute, it doesn't always go to plan. I think, I feel sorry for Anthony Joshua. I think he gets a lot of criticism that he doesn't necessarily deserve.
Ben, let me ask you that on that then, because you're right. He does get a lot of criticism, Anthony Joshua, and you speak about he doesn't have to box anymore because he's got all the money in the world. Do you still see the same fire and energy there, the passion? Because when I watch him fight to early AJ, I know it's a little bit different once you get there, but is that same energy still there for you when you watch him?
I think he's putting in everything he possibly can into the sport. I really do. Maybe things aren't clicking anymore. Maybe when you lose a couple of times, 3 times, you become more gun shy. That's probably what's going on, but I don't think it's lack of effort. He doesn't need to do it. As I say, he puts himself through it every single time. You can tell he cares about his boxing. He's changed trainers a few times. But yeah, I don't like the criticism, because all that's going to do is why encourage a guy like that to leave the sport when he does so much for it.
Listen, thank you both so much for coming in. A reminder, of course, Dan Azeez will be taking on Josh Buatsi at the O2 Arena in London on the 21st of October. Any tickets left if people are listening?
Tickets went on sale today.
Oh, fine.
So
okay.
make sure you get your
Can
tickets.
I ask,
Sorry, Ben, is there.
if me and Bentley want to... I'm not insured to sit next to the general public, so I'll need proper ringside.
Yeah, you
Can
need
sort-
serious
Can
security.
you sort that out? Is that okay?
Yeah. We'll make sure.
Thank
of
you
that.
both so much for coming. I know we've
Thanks for
pushed
having
you to
us.
try and find who your favourite is, all right? And I know, but just last question: if you had a +1 ticket to the Oscars, who are you taking? Bearing in mind one of them sat next to you. So it's quite an easy answer, right?
I'm not taking either of them. I'll take my girlfriend.
Oh, I thought you were going to say me for a minute. Right. I was going to ask for that jacket for the Oscars. Listen, a real pleasure. Thanks so much for coming here. A reminder again, tickets went on sale today. Dan Azeez against Josh Buatsi at the O2 on the 21st of October. My advice is get booking now before they go.